Hi, my name is John Light, and I've spent over 20 years working throughout all corners of the recruiting world. Our podcast, Drowning in the Tech Talent Pool, is a resource to help you stay afloat and get ahead of your competition. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Drowning in the Tech Talent Pool. I'm your host, John Light, President and CEO of Sabretooth Recruiting. And today, I got a really interesting guest to join us with a great journey to talk about. Jayme Hong, thanks so much for joining us. And thanks so much for taking out some time. And I know as you are working on your current startup, Pavodeo, that you've got a lot of flaming plates you're juggling in the air right now. Could you take a minute? Because I don't even know if I could adequately explain it the way you've put it to me before. And maybe share a little bit about your journey that led you from, let's just musical artist to corporate America to music and now to founder and CEO of a startup.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for having me, John. I'm very excited to be here. So I'm going to introduce myself, a little bit of what I'm building and how I started this whole journey. So here we go. So I'm Jayme, founder and CEO of Pivodio, and we are an edtech messaging platform that empowers artists through micro-learning. So learners can virtually connect with like hundreds of award-winning professionals who can teach them through short video messages. So think masterclass meets Snapchat.
Okay.
Today, I'm an entrepreneur, but once upon a time, I dream of being a rock star, and I think secretly I still do. But if you know an aspiring musicians, and they are probably broke, but they need proper guidance to get better, and the best way is to take private lessons. But they're expensive and time consuming. Alternatively, they could watch endless YouTube or lengthy courses, but there's no way to know their progress, and they are one size fits all. So I'll tell you, like, the best advice I ever received was from my vocal coach. And she said, Jayme, even when you sing low keys, don't forget to open your mouth wider. And it took her like 30 seconds to hear my singing and give that advice, but it made a huge difference in my recording sound. So if we set up the system right, experts can quickly pinpoint and prescribe even career-altering advice at a much lower price point. So on Pavodeo, users choose industry pros and upload performances. And within 24 hours, they receive bite-sized, personalized coaching. So you get unlimited access from award-winning experts or your favorite artists you already follow, and they're giving you advice like they are your next door. For as low as $10. So the concept of micro learning is introduced like more and more, and Pavodeo is at the forefront. So our mission is we exist for two reasons: to make highly personalized coaching available to every creative person around the world, and to make six-figure income an industry standard for professional artists. But we're not stopping there. We are starting with the musicians, but the plan is to embrace like other great artists, like actors, dancers, filmmakers, painters, and writers in an industry worth over $3 trillion. And also we're expanding our platform with AI language translation for global communication to connect artists anywhere in the world without language barriers. And so we want to make learning accessible and affordable to anyone so that they can pursue their dream regardless of the circumstances. So It's incredible how my life transitioned from over 20 years in healthcare to supporting artists' dreams through education. So should I continue with the journey?
How did you, I guess the question I have, and I think anyone listening would have, you allude to 20 years in healthcare.
Yeah.
What happened on either side and during that 20 years that led you to do this? Because sometimes the decisions we reach, we don't reach them overnight. We reach them as part of the process of the journey we go through to get wherever it is we're trying to go. So maybe a real quick overview. how on earth did you pick this as the space to focus your developmental energies on for micro learning? I mean, why music, for example, and why now versus earlier in stage and career, I suppose? What are your thoughts around that?
Great question, John. So I have to go back to my childhood. So I had one dream, and just one dream only, and that was to become a rock star. And I actually never thought that I would change my dream. And that was the whole childhood to college. And I moved to the States to study music. But during college, I had to face the ultimate decision, which is helping my family financially, or I have to pursue my own dreams. So I choose my family. I gave up my dream altogether and worked really hard. And sadly, I got really good at management. So
that's terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. So, I mean, like I was working really hard because I have to support myself and my family and all that. So I'm very grateful that I built a successful career over like 20 years. But deep down, like I always wonder, like, whose dream I'm working for, right? And one day, fate intervened, and I got the chance to perform in front of an audience again. And I was on the stage, and when I felt the stage, that vibration from the feet and all that, I felt my passion for music come flooding back. And I went home and I cried for days because I felt like, man, I wasted over 20 years of my life chasing the wrong thing and wrong dreams. And looking outside, I may be a successful executive, but I felt so empty inside. So I started singing again and wrote a song and released my single for the first time on Spotify. And I tried to be a professional artist for a year and a half. But the reality was that I just couldn't sustain the full-time musician because of the low income. I mean, if you think about it, music industry is like $50 billion industry, and most musicians struggle to make ends meet, which I found grossly unfair. And not only music industry, right, but all creative industry, most artists have second or third job to continue their creative journey, and because they love what they do, right, and they have to do it. So anyway, so I had to go back to the corporate world. I feel so defeated because I'm essentially giving up my dream twice, but I didn't want to give up again. So I decided to work on it on my free time. So to get better, I realized that, I want to know how I sound. And so I needed a guidance, but I found like amateur artists like me, or like people, even you're professional, you want to have someone who knows what they're talking about to tell you, how you sound and, second opinion, or like, really tell you, pinpoint where to improve. And I just couldn't find any place to find quick advice and the easy access to those industry experts. And that's how I found my true calling. I was like, I have all this management experience. So I actually didn't waste all these years. So I could use that experience and support artists by offering affordable micro lessons. And so this essentially create like the win-win situation for professional and for learning artists.
It's interesting to me that you found a way to repurpose the bulk of your professional experience in such a way as to work towards your original goal. Right. And that's pretty cool, actually. Number one, keeping that anchor in your life about, man, what am I passionate about? Right. What really excites me and gets my blood pumping. But at the same time, I appreciate the recognition that I didn't burn a couple decades. Instead, I developed skills that are going to help me realize my dreams. More importantly, help other people have a chance to realize their dreams. Look, I look at being an artist kind of like being a professional athlete. In the sense that, in high school and here in the States, I don't know what percentage of boys in high school and girls in high school are involved in some sort of sports. soccer, football, baseball, cross country, volleyball, basketball, whatever it might be. And only a very small percentage of them do it in college.
Sure.
And an even smaller percentage, and maybe a percentage of a smaller percentage of a smaller percentage, actually do it at a professional level.
Yeah.
You know, and when you look at artists, despite all the variety you hear on the radio or you hear Spotify or wherever it might be, it's an extremely small percentage of a percentage of a percentage that actually get to a level of success that they can support themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
That they can have a career. I mean, that's really, really hard. So anything that gives those folks an advantage, I would see, you know, down the road, a platform like this, like, would enable people in other fields. Like you said, yeah, there's actors and actresses and all this, but what about people that just want to learn a different skill, woodworking, for example,
right. Yeah,
painting.
Yeah.
Not that we all want to be, you know, Bob Ross and sit there in front of the screen and paint, but I mean, how cool would it be to have somebody say, hey, I see that your brushstroke needs this or your technique needs that. That's pretty cool stuff, in my opinion.
Thank you. And then you really don't need many, like, you don't really need to take all the lengthy courses, like lengthy onboarding process or registration. You just need to have just quick, you know, set the system right and then quickly ask the expert and quickly get the answer. So we don't offer like one-on-one like booking, right? Like we don't meet like this, but the students can learn with asynchronous communication. So you send the message out and within 24 hours, they receive the personalized coaching. So that way it's very optimized for both ends.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you really have, I don't know, maybe you're going to have multiple golden paths to get certain steps on this journey. Like if you're a user and, okay, I need you to give me your opinion of how I sound at a low rate or whatever it might be and how to improve things. Okay, so you've got that part of the journey, but then you've also got the professional on the other end, you know, and their user experience. But you also brought up the platform you're having to develop that allows artists globally to communicate in a common forum, which seems to me that's like a whole other business venture on top of a business venture. So I know that you're doing a lot of this bootstrapping and developing it with, you know, from pre-seed and whatnot. But tell me how you're addressing your challenges with technology, especially as AI applies, but technology and the talent necessary to get the work done, because there's a lot of complexity in these journeys that your end users are going to be on.
Yes. So I think the biggest challenge like I'm facing related to the tech talent are probably like the same as like other founders are facing. People are, I mean, it sounds like cliche, but people are the building blocks of companies' success, right? And without people, you can't build the successful company, period. But not just any people, you have to pick the right people. And being a non-technical founder may seem like I'm limited in finding suitable candidates, but we have many tools to verify their capabilities. But you can only know their capacity or how they can carry their accountability after you work with them certain period of time, right? So especially in an early stage startup, like you said, like I'm just doing, 10 things at the same time. But the first team members set the company's tone, and building the right company culture from the very, very early stage is like really, really important to me. And so I want to be extra careful with whom I work with for the long term. And it's really hard for startup. And the challenge will be like, I have to pick the right candidate in such a limited time, right? Yeah. So that I can prevent any type of hiring mistake. And I would say it takes like a lot of good judgment, insights, and many mistakes and lessons that I learned and then not doing it again. But I'm always looking for talented individual. And so I keep establishing like those relationship with them. So before I considering working together, I can share the information about where we are with the company, our vision and direction for Pivodio, and etc. So this kind of prepares me for our future expansion, so I can expedite the process, hiring process, because I'll have a few people ready to start by then. So I'm always
one
going
thing
to
I've
look out
learned.
there. Yeah.
One thing I've learned in over a couple decades of being in the recruiting space is that no matter how much you want to as a hiring manager, there's no sure thing.
Yeah.
And there are hires that come close, but I look at it kind of like, not like gambling per se, but kind of like, playing cards and having a chance to shuffle and stack the deck in your favor. That doesn't guarantee that someone else at the table won't draw, a full house, aces over jacks, when you're sitting over, queens over threes.
Yeah.
But queens over three is a pretty strong hand to begin with. And pardon. And I really think that everything we do to stack the deck in our favor in the hiring process, from the time we identify and start attracting candidates, to the interview process, to how we assess them, to the onboarding, you can't make everything perfect for everybody. There's not a one size fits all, but we can do our best to stack the deck in our favor in regards to a favorable outcome versus unfavorable. And I think, there was a great study, and I think this is important for anyone in a startup world or even in a corporate world. There's a great study done a number of years ago where this consulting firm tracked 20,000 new hires over 3 years. And what was stunning to me, over a 3-year period, only 19% of those new hires across all functions were considered successful hires.
Wow.
19%. And I'm talking to a gentleman earlier this year, actually, and he's in the VC space. In fact, his Peter Saddington is his name, and he was a podcast guest as well. We're talking about this, and he says, that really sounds like the Pareto principle. Where 80% of your productivity and results come from 20% of your people doing it. And I don't know if that's the right application for it or not, but it was really shocking to me. And when you think about that, I think there's a big push, and this is part of what your platform at Pavodeo brought to my mind, is there's a big push for specialization and fractionalization.
Yes. Yes.
And being able to, okay, I'm an artist and I know X very well. I may not know X plus Y or X minus W or whatever it might be, but I know that this I'm an expert in. But as a company or as an artist, a budding young artist, which I am neither budding nor young nor artistic, but someone like that, I can't afford to hire you for a year or 2 or 3. But exactly. Man, if I could afford to plumb the depths of your expertise in this one area and then stitch that together with another and another that helps me along my journey, there's a lot of potential upside and value to that 5 years ago, I don't know if there's a way to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And frankly, I'd like to see some new artistic blood. People who might not have otherwise made it. I'd like to see them not have to go to Hollywood or go to Nashville or wherever it might be and, I'll go through the rigmarole, but rather be like an artisan, in the old days where somebody specialized in this and someone specialized in that, and they took great pride in their craft. Right, I don't know if that ever bubbled up in your head with Pavodeo, but that's kind of what bubbled up in mine after we first spoke.
Yeah, exactly. And then you pointed out really great stuff like, a lot of people are struggling with, and then they just don't have that access, right, to the expert. And so, option one is you give up, and option two is you continue doing the wrong thing over and over again. And then, you just love the art. And that's why I'm really passionate about helping those people who's, struggling and that's stuck in that one spot. And, just by kind of like one of the user told me, like, Pivodio is like, you're walking in the dark and someone, would use the flashlight and guide you in that, So I think that that he just nailed it. I was so appreciated how he described it, but I think that's exactly what we are here for.
Oh, that's a pretty cool way to put it. And so right now, if there is a young artist out there or an old artist who's trying to grow their repertoire, do you have a pilot out there where they can go to your site and check it out and work? Where's I'm assuming, is it Pavodeo.com or what's the website address?
Exactly. Pivodio.com.
And it's on your shirt. So
yes.
If someone is listening rather than watching this on YouTube, you can watch it on YouTube and you can see in bright colors, Pivodio.
Yes.
And then throw a .com on the end and, hey, have a chance to sound more like Kenny Rogers than me. All right, I have to ask this question, and this is off script, right? Totally off script. Okay, so you wanted to be a rock and roll star.
Mm-hmm.
Within rock and roll, there are different, I guess you could say, I don't know if it would be a different genre, a different subgenre. Where do you fall? What's the one that rings your bell?
Oh, I was more like alternative rock and just like more like a pop side of the rock, right?
Okay.
I guess like when I was growing up, I wanted to sing, I wanted to perform, and that at that time, rock was something that people are very like. It was very trending, and now I'm like. Into jazz, like Love. I'm listening to Love all the time, and like I always, it's jazz speak to me now. So it changes, but back in the days that where I was really trying, and that was my influence. But more like I think I feel like I just wanted to be more like a popular or influential person. But yeah, like I know I didn't answer your question like all 100%, but yeah, the rock star is more like the influential status, or the rock star, meaning that because like I was looking up to like Beyonce, or
you're the apex, and people are looking up.
Yeah, like like I wanted to like have a positive influence to the people, and so the rock star is like. Like all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I hear rock star, I immediately go, man, I wonder if she was growing up jamming to AC/DC, to Boston. I mean, what was going on here? Is she into Pink Floyd? Or is it more this alternative stuff where, yes, I listen to Depeche Mode, or whichever way it goes.
Yeah.
I found as I've gotten older, my taste in music has shifted quite a bit. Like I don't, my wife has gotten me into listening to this, to several groups here, like the Tresky Brothers, or almost this kind of bluesy thing going on. I've gone back and revisited some of the old blues stuff, and more the blues jazzy sort of scene, and Stevie Ray Vaughan here in Texas was kind of on the scene before he died, and a bunch of others, and it's a lot of fun. There's more out there to explore than people realize, and it's closer to us than it's ever been. So speaking of close to us, looking at the Pavodeo platform and other things that are out there, and where I guess you could say the marketplace in a sense is going, what does the future look like for artists who want to grow in their art, who want to reach for a pinnacle, so to speak? What does the future look like if you were to take yourself from 25, 30 years ago, and I'm not even sure if you're 30 years old, but let's just say, okay. I have to be polite. That's part of my nature. I'm from Texas. We're supposed to have that Southern drawl and be polite to everybody and use contractions. But if you were to back up in that time frame and put yourself today, what the future looked like when you made that decision that, okay, I need to be there for my family, so I'm going to go the corporate route. This seems like it has the bandwidth to help somebody make both decisions, to go both routes in a sense, versus picking one or the other. So I'm just curious, if you were to transport your younger self to today, what does the next 20 or 30 years for a young artist look like compared to then?
Nowadays, the artists, I think, even with the Pivodio, you have a lot of tools, right, out there. All you need to do is you search it or chat GPT it and to find out where you can improve. You have so many tools out there, almost like impossible to list them out altogether. And so it's really up to have some guidance in that, right? So that's where Pivodio comes in. Like, I don't think I can guide all the artists to be discovered.
Right.
Like, I'll get you the record deal if you use Pivodio. But I think the process of learning gives you so much fulfillment, and you can, but I think it has to be our responsibility as a human to improve yourself and learn and never stop improving, right? And that's where micro learning comes in. Lifelong micro learning is really necessary, and that's where Pivodio is at the forefront. So the artist can improve their skills, so we can help their journey in the middle of the journey, but in terms of like through education, right? But for them to get discovered and to get the like record signing deal, and that's something in a whole new different category.
I don't know if I'm an artist and I'm in today and I can pursue that artistic inclination, but I'm not discontent with my day job either.
Right.
Yeah. Do I need a lifestyle pursuing fame, fortune, and being on the road all the time? And I think there's opportunity here for people to make better qualitative decisions about the richness of their life versus the richness of their bank account. And I'm not an advocate for some of the stuff that you see out on the internet about you'll own nothing and be happy. I like having assets. I think it's important. I'm not against somebody doing the best they can for themselves financially or professionally or whatever it might be by any stretch of the imagination. But I can see people, and I know people who don't have the drive to climb the mountain, but they have the drive and they enjoy being good at what they put their hands to do, whether it's singing or playing an instrument or a sport or woodwork or, whatever it might be. And I think that's important because people tend to overlook and not really appreciate the incredible array of opportunity and choice that we have. And Pavodeo is contributing to that in a way that is maybe specific to artists, but that's probably going to be over time applicable to a broad array of vocations or choices that people may want to make. I can really see a time where, you have your 9 to 5 or however your job, your work is defined, where you make your living, but that you have this flexibility and this knowledge available to where you won't go broke pursuing a passion.
You just took what I'm thinking in my brain and then just said it beautifully.
Oh, thank you. You must be really having something powerful in your brain because it transmitted. It transmitted, and I received the message.
It was so good. It was so good. And sometimes it's so hard for me to articulate the word. It's the beauty of having, speaking 2 languages, but it's like, that's exactly. We have a responsibility to support young artists to guide them in that way, right? And at least help them make a good decision and then improve too. Yeah.
Well, I liked how you phrase it. It's a masterclass that met up with Snapchat.
Yes.
They met at a restaurant. They had some, hors d'oeuvres or whatever. And now they're like, hey, you want to produce something really cool? Let's go make Pavodeo. So talking about passion, Jayme, talking about, I love to do this or I love to do that. You love to sing, for example, among other things. But I think your passion has evolved a little bit too. As you get more mature, you become more self-aware. What maybe got me excited 20 or 30 years ago can be nuanced, more nuanced. It can vary a little bit today versus then, maybe even a lot, just depends. But what is it that puts the fire in your belly every day? What's your passion project? And it's fine if it's Pavodeo, but I'm always curious to ask people, What is that fire in the belly moment you have every day, that there's just something that you do or you think about or you engage in that really lights you up?
Well, I think the whole journey that I found Pivodio and built the Pivodio will be, so Pivodio is my identity. And, I know when you asked me that question, I was like, oh, I wish I can tell you like, oh, I'm passionate about like gluten-free, baking is my passion. And, cause it is like, I always look for some sugar-free and, gluten-free option. And then I try to bake it and it tastes horrible. But, but Pivodio is actually my identity, and I want to live my life supporting people's dream, especially artists, through this micro lesson or the education. So this is my passion project, right? And so it took me too long to find this. And so what I always tell young professionals, and I really want to, I want to tell the young professional that don't look for external reasons to find what you want. Search what you really want within yourself. So after I gave up my dream to be a musician, I changed the industry several times, from fashion to dental to energy to biotech. And they all carry great mission and vision, but they weren't mine. Like every time I change industry, I force myself, okay, this is it. This is a great company. They have a great project. They have wonderful missions. And, like this helps people, earth, health, whatever that is, right? I try to believe that this is where I need to stay. And I ignore what I really wanted because they offered me a great salary and I was making more money than my friends. And my title made me feel like I'm important. And what all these companies stand for made me feel proud of what I worked there, and that was all external reasons. And I worked really hard to get validation because I wanted to be successful, but with all the wrong reasons. So when I finally found my calling, I'm broke as hell and I work twice as much than before. And every waking hour is my working hours, but I realized everything is much clearer and easier because every ounce of my motivation is coming from within. And most importantly, I don't have to try so hard. So I no longer have to strive for external validation or pretend to be someone I'm not. And that's the most amazing feeling I can have.
Awesome. Yeah. No, hey, I would rather pursue that any day of the week versus trying to be something I'm not. And you and I there's a rabbit hole we could probably dive down right here.
Yeah.
When it comes to aligning culture between your personal work culture and a company's work culture. And I define culture loosely as how you go about your business. And when you find that thing that aligns with your why, man, this is what I live for. And you can make work feel like play.
Yes.
A lot of other stuff falls into place. And a company or an organization or an individual who has figured that stuff out. That is a real challenge, I feel, to hire for all the reasons you said earlier, right? We get in there and we're like, oh, it's a great company. It's a great boss. It's a great whatever. I'm going to follow them. But you're doing it because of them. You're not doing it because of you.
Totally.
And, we all do things because of them, because of what's external. I got to pay the bills. I got to, have some kind of career. I got to have something going on. But I feel like for most people, there's something inside that is that little spark of passion, little spark of, man, I could do this every day of my life and never get tired of it. I think what you're doing with Pavodeo gives people, helps them achieve a connection with that and make it part of their lives in a way they couldn't do it before. And I think ultimately that's going to make people better as bosses, as employees, as colleagues. So I'd say kudos to you, Jayme. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
And it sounds like it's going, if not awesomely, it's definitely going excitingly, right? It's because you're overcoming the challenges and you're putting it out there. And if somebody wants to learn more, they can go to pivodio.com, Pavodeo.com, or simply look Jayme, Jayme Hong, on LinkedIn. She's connected to me. So if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, she's easy to find. And I promise she's got some great ideas in the works for Pavodeo and for the marketplace. Jayme, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a great time.
You've been listening to Drowning in the Tech Talent Pool. This podcast is sponsored by Sabretooth. Sabretooth improves the quality of hire and speeds up the time to fill specialized machine learning, data engineering, data science, and developer roles, stretching tech recruiting budgets further by bringing the precision of retained search and the speed of contingent search to the market in one complete solution. Find out more at sbr2th.com and follow me, John Light, on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.